The National Desk, America's News Now.
From the nation's capital, this is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Amira David. On this weekend edition, we take a look at the big headlines of the week and look ahead at what to expect, starting with the 4 big stories we've been following this week. Capping off a record-breaking summer travel season, how many Americans TSA is expecting to screen this weekend? Consumer confidence on the rise, while concerns over the labor market continue to linger. What's next for the uncertain economy? And later, third world country or right down the road, the dramatic scene triggering new fears regarding migrant crime. But first, the presidential election creeps closer. How Trump and Harris are attempting to appeal to voters in a few crucial swing states. Vice President Kamala Harris and running mate Governor Tim Walz visited the battleground state of Georgia this week. The campaign on a 2-day bus tour in the rural counties of southeast Georgia and Savannah as part of their post-Democratic National Convention blitz. Recent polling shows Harris is making Georgia more competitive, more so than President Biden had. Former President Donald Trump has also spent a big chunk of his advertising budget in Georgia, meaning his team may also see the state as up for grabs. Georgia officials say the peach state is key this November.
She recognizes that Georgia is in play. The road to the White House goes through Georgia, and the lane to that road goes through Savannah and coastal Georgia.
Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, he also headlined a fundraiser for Trump in Atlanta. This week, Republican vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance made his case for the Trump campaign in Michigan. Vance speaking on the economy, inflation, and manufacturing in the battleground state. He also tapped into local frustration over an EV battery plant project in the area with ties to China, saying that a Trump presidency would signal a return to economic stability and competitive manufacturing.
Yeah, well, we're going to fix it the same way that Donald Trump actually implemented low inflation policies in the beginning. You have to unleash American energy, drill, baby, drill. That drives down the cost of everything. You have to build more houses, and you have to stop so many illegal aliens from coming into this country.
Former President Trump stopped in Michigan as well. And a new reading on consumer confidence shows Americans continue to feel better about the overall economy, but some are starting to express concern about the direction of the labor market. National correspondent Atrel Nashar has a closer look at the plans the presidential candidates are pitching to voters.
As the rate of inflation falls, consumer confidence is rising. According to the Conference Board's monthly report, which is closely watched by economists, consumers in July felt more optimistic about current economic conditions than they did the previous month.
We continue to see an incredibly resilient consumer.
Target CEO projecting confidence after the company had a better than expected quarter. The same is true of Walmart. Its CFO said things have been remarkably consistent. At the same time, just about everyone, from consumers to executives to officials at the Federal Reserve, are growing cautious about where the labor market is headed after the unemployment rate ticked up to 4.3%.
We do not seek or welcome further cooling in labor market conditions.
On the campaign trail, Vice President Harris and former President Trump are working to convince voters they're the one who can build a stronger economy.
We will end America's housing shortage by building 3 million new homes and rentals.
Harris also calls for assistance for first-time home buyers and a federal ban on food price gouging, which has drawn skepticism from economists who say price gouging isn't a primary driver of inflation, while Trump tries to blame Harris for the past few years of rising inflation.
Everyday prices are too high. Food, rent, gas, back-to-school clothes. That is called Bidenomics.
He wants to cut regulations on energy production and impose tariffs on more foreign products. Trump says added tariffs will make the U.S. more competitive with countries like China, but many economists say it will just raise prices for Americans. Both campaigns crisscrossing the country in the coming days to speak directly to swing state voters, selling their two very different visions for the future. In Washington, I'm Atrel Nashar for the National Desk, America's News Now.
New details. Karen Reed is being sued by the family of the police officer boyfriend she's accused of killing. They've also named 2 Massachusetts bars in the wrongful death lawsuit. John O'Keefe III was found dead in January of 2022 right outside a home in Canton, Massachusetts. The civil lawsuit filed this week alleges Reed hit him with her car while intoxicated and left him for dead. Following a mistrial, her criminal case is being retried in January of next year. And the U.S. soldier who ran across the border from South to North Korea is now expected to plead guilty to desertion and assault. U.S. Army Private Travis King was charged with 14 offenses under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. He is accused of crossing into North Korea in July of 2023, roughly a week before he had been released from a detention facility in South Korea for a 2022 incident where he allegedly punched someone at a club in Seoul. The FBI says the gunman in the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump searched online for events of both Trump and President Biden ahead of the attack on July 13th. At the rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. The FBI releasing new photos of the gun he used. You're looking at those photos now. You see the backpack and the explosives he had in his car. According to the FBI, Thomas Crooks did extensive planning and saw the Trump rally as a, quote, target of opportunity. The agency has conducted nearly 1,000 interviews so far. And right now, police in Aurora, Colorado, calling a recent violent incident associated with the Venezuelan street gang a, quote, isolated incident, but it's raising fears once again of a surge in crimes committed by migrants hundreds of miles away from the border. National correspondent Christine Frizzell details the grim trend.
It's a scene that seems to be out of a developing nation where corruption and violence run rampant. But this surveillance video is from an apartment complex in Aurora, Colorado.
To your knowledge, what are the men in this video doing?
They are going through the complex, like I'm told that they are, heavily armed. They patrol the complex. They control who comes in, who goes out. They go from door to door. They have forced their way into many complexes. They have thrown people out.
Aurora City Councilwoman Danielle Jurinsky blames neighboring Denver for its sanctuary policies, which provides services to undocumented migrants, the vast majority not connected to crimes and there to find work. Those seen in this video, though, believed to be associated with the violent Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, designated by the U.S. Treasury Department as a transnational criminal organization, closely watched by the FBI.
We're certainly tracking that particular gang, TDA, as we would refer to it, whether it's their, drug trafficking, extortion, kidnapping for ransom, different kinds of violent crime. 4 Venezuelan migrants associated with the same gang were just indicted for this jewelry store heist in Denver. 2 others believed to be involved in the attack of New York City police officers in Times Square in January. And the suspect in the murder of Laken Riley has connections as well. Venezuela and some other countries have no diplomatic relationship with the United States, which means information about migrants' backgrounds would not be shared.
We have no ability to verify their criminal background or whether they belong to a Venezuela gang, but yet we're still releasing them in the United States.
Former President Donald Trump says if he wins the election in November, he'll implement a mass deportation program. Vice President Kamala Harris has indicated a shift in her position on border policy, supporting a more restrictive approach. I'm Christine Frizzell for the National Desk.
Christine, thanks. This Labor Day weekend, many Americans are hitting the road or taking to the skies. The next few days are forecast to be even busier than last year at this same time. According to AAA, domestic travel will be up by 9%. The Transportation Administration is preparing to screen a record-breaking 17 million people now through September 4th at busy U.S. airports. Friday was projected to be the busiest travel day. A growing number of Americans say they think getting infected with COVID-19 is safer than getting the vaccine to fight against it. More than 1 in 5 people would rather get the virus than the jab. That's according to a new survey from the University of Pennsylvania's Annenberg Public Policy Center. That's up from 10% in April of 2021, just months after the shots rolled out. The CDC says COVID vaccine injuries are rare, adding that deaths reported after COVID vaccination are related to multiple external factors. New details, your zip code may determine your dementia diagnosis. In fact, you may be twice as likely to be diagnosed in some areas of the country as others. Those who live in Connecticut, for example, they are 18% more likely to get an Alzheimer's or dementia diagnosis than those who live in Massachusetts. That's according to new research. And surprisingly, Florida did not. In addition to Connecticut, Alaska, and the Texas Panhandle had excellent matches between dementia diagnoses and what might be expected for their areas.
2 astronauts who were supposed to only be in space for a little over a week will be stuck there for months, all thanks to some complications with their Boeing Starliner spacecraft. Emma Withrow joining us now from the fact check team. What the experience, Emma? It was decided that the Starliner is too risky for a return. What does that mean?
Yeah, so NASA said that the Starliner had some helium leaks and had issues with the spacecraft reaction control thrusters. I'm obviously not an engineer, so I can't quite break down what all of that means, but I can tell you that after troubleshooting for a couple of months, NASA didn't think it was safe enough for Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams to ride the Starliner back to Earth. So instead, they're hitching a ride with SpaceX come February.
Speaking of SpaceX, they take pretty frequent trips to space, so it makes you wonder why it's going to take almost 6 months to get these astronauts back.
Yeah, and there is a reason for that. So NASA said there were limited options here. SpaceX's capsule that is currently parked at the space station is reserved for the 4 astronauts who've been there since March. So they're coming back in late September, but it would be unsafe to squeeze 2 more people into that capsule. So Wilmore and Williams are going to have to wait for that next SpaceX taxi that's going to head back, obviously, in 6 months.
All the logistics. Emma, thank you. Later on, Emma will be back to break down the controversy behind Boeing and their multi-billion-dollar contracts with NASA.
And ahead on the National Desk, America's News Now, countdown to kickoff. Pittsburgh Steelers Super Bowl champ Ryan Clark revealing what's in store for this season of Inside the NFL. Plus, sick day dilemma as students head back to school and flu season approaches when experts say kids should be kept home. In less than 1 week, the NFL football season kicks off, and along with exciting games will come the expert commentary that so many of us love to hear. One program offering a unique perspective, combining legendary Super Bowl players and coaches, is Inside the NFL. Earlier this week, I sat down with host and Pittsburgh Steelers Super Bowl champ Ryan Clark to talk about what we can expect to see this season. We got to start off with who's joining you this season. You are enough, my friend. You are entertaining enough. But this season, you've got 8-time Super Bowl champion Bill Belichick. So what a steal for you guys. What has that been like so far, and what energy do you expect him to bring?
It's been amazing. We've had opportunities to just sit and talk. And when you get an opportunity to talk to Coach Belichick, you realize how much knowledge he has, but also how much he respects the game of football. And I remember our first conversation at the draft. We were sitting in the suite in Detroit, and we started talking about some of the things he did with the New England Patriots offense. And I could just see him relax and sort of fall into a place of comfort. And he's actually funny as heck when we're in the edit room, when he's talking about different things in the game. He's constantly joking, but it's like that dry sense of humor. Yeah. So imagine being in like Wedding Crashers with also the most decorated coach of all time. And that's what it's been like to be around Coach Belichick. It's been a really good learning experience for me, such a historian, but also great to get to know him outside of the press conferences where all he says is, we're moving on to Cincinnati.
I'm excited. I think it'll be a great opportunity for people to get to know him in a different way. Yeah. So that's really cool. And we know you're a sports broadcaster, not a sports forecaster. But since we have you here, give us your predictions, whatever you can give us, based on what we've seen in the preseason and just what you feel. The Chiefs, for example, back-to-back champions, what do you expect from them this year?
I mean, like, think about Patrick Mahomes, right? You know, I'm a lot older than you, Miss Amira, so you don't probably remember what it's like to watch Michael Jordan play basketball and understand that all of these dudes are going to be Hall of Famers and they're great players, but they're not going to win championships. That's who Patrick Mahomes is in the AFC. Think about Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow. All of these great players still don't have Super Bowl wins because they have to go through that guy. This team's added pieces offensively. We know Andy Reid's an absolute legend when it comes to the coaching profession. And I think they're going to be one of the top teams in the NFL this year again. And they'll be, as long as Patrick Mahomes kind of is like upright, walking, and basically breathing, this is going to be one of the best teams in the entire league.
Yeah, it's that Mahomes-Kelsey partnership that just seems to succeed every time. And what other storylines is your team following? I got to ask you, are you following my Detroit Lions? Are you hopeful for my Detroit Lions this year?
Yeah, you know what's so funny? It's like I've met all of these Detroit fans recently, and I'm so high on Detroit, right? I think Detroit's one of the best teams in the entire NFC. Think about it. They were 30 minutes away from going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But then Detroit fans always tell me, yeah, but Detroit's going to Detroit, and we expected that to happen. No, you guys never expected to be where you were last year. What Dan Campbell has built there is absolutely phenomenal. Jared Goff finally getting his just due. They're taking care of their homegrown players. And like Detroit's now a place that people want to play, along with the Green Bay Packers, along with the San Francisco 49ers. This is a team that'll be contending to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl.
And that's the storyline we love. We love to see it. We love a Cinderella story. So, of course, I'm rooting for them. I hope you're rooting for them, too. Just a quick household note, Inside the NFL moving to a new night, Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern. Tell us about that. How does that change the format of your show, if at all?
Well, what it changes is, like, we'll be looking ahead now. NFL Films always has the best sights, the best sounds, and we'll throw back to some of those things because you don't want to lose what Steve Sable built at NFL Films, right? You don't want to lose what the inside the NFL has always been. But now you have a guy like Bill Belichick that at the end of shows, every show, he's going to give you a game plan for the week. So he'll be standing at a podium with game film, with the things that we could do at NFL Films, telling you why your favorite team needs to do a certain thing. And we'll also get to look ahead at all the best games of the weekend. And so we're really excited to change the format. And when you have somebody like Bill Belichick, who's prepared the best teams of the last 2 decades, I think it offers a unique perspective into what the weekend's games will be.
You guys got a good lineup, that is for sure, and I'll be watching, I'll be tuning in. Host of the CW's Inside the NFL, Ryan Clark, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Amira. You have a great day.
President Biden's student loan repayment plan will remain on hold for now. In an unsigned order this week, the Supreme Court says it will wait for a more in-depth decision from the appeals court overseeing the program's legal challenges. The program, dubbed the SAVE Plan, aims to lower monthly payments and offer a faster path to loan cancellation. Biden introduced the plan last year after the Supreme Court shot down his $400 billion student loan forgiveness program. Right now, kids are back in school, which means parents might soon be dealing with those illnesses and deciding when to keep their kids home. The National Desk's Janae Bowens has a closer look at the dilemma.
Good morning, students. Students are back in classes and they bring their germs too.
We've seen an uptick in COVID infections throughout the United States. So certainly COVID is a concern. And we know that influenza is always a concern.
Dr. Stephen Ferreira is the president of the American Association of Nurse Practitioners and says parents need to make sure kids are up to date on their immunizations, eat a balanced diet, and wash their hands religiously.
Children with a fever should be kept home from school.
But what if your child doesn't have any severe symptoms? The C.S. Mont Children's Hospital National Poll on Children's Health found 53% of parents say they are most likely to keep their child home just to be safe.
Because what you really want to do as a parent is figure out, like, is this something real? Or is there kind of something in the background that's swaying the kid one way or another?
Sarah Clark is the co-director of the poll. She says she was impressed that 1 in 5 parents consider if their child needs a mental health day.
I don't think we would have seen that 10 years ago. If there's anxiety about their academics, anxiety about their social life, use that mental health day to come up with a plan, to come up with some strategies, to make things better.
2 in 3 parents say their child in middle or high school worries about the impact on grades if they are absent. I'm Janae Bowens reporting.
Janae, thank you. The FTC says Care.com has agreed to pay $8.5 million to address unlawful practices claims. Care.com connects users with caregivers, housekeeping services, and tutors. But according to the FTC, the company allegedly misled job seekers and posters. Regulators accused the company of using deceptive design practices to trap consumers in subscription plans. The FTC says the payout will go to customers who were harmed by those practices. And just ahead, 3 10-year-old best friends on a mission to give back how much they've already raised to help kids with cancer. Plus, a warning from health officials about mosquito-borne illnesses, the virus that's now spreading across 33 states. The National Desk's team of reporters is bringing you the headlines from coast to coast. We're taking the pulse of America, and we begin in Washington State, where escalating crime is causing local businesses to close, and not even thrift stores are immune.
We are dealing with the same things that many people in this urban community is dealing with as well. We're not immune to it.
Not even a thrift shop is immune. The boarded-up storefront at the Evergreen Goodwill in the University District is the latest vandalism here. 3 times in 3 months, the windows have been shattered, doors kicked in. Then there's repeated theft and even threats of violence against employees, says Goodwill's Senior VP of Retail Operations.
Things of that nature is what we're dealing with on a pretty regular basis at this point.
He told me that, coupled with rising operation costs from increased rent and wages, forced a difficult decision. Close this store and the one in South Lake Union 2 on September 22nd.
Safety and the well-being of my consumer and our employee is number one.
They think it's bottom of the barrel, so they can do anything here, along with assaulting people.
Stevie Fellows used to work in the U District store.
Theft here is just, expected every day.
In Rhode Island, 3 10-year-old best friends are on a mission to give back to sick children. The group started a lemonade stand selling lemonade and pretzels to neighbors and anyone passing by. The money earned is donated to the Izzy Foundation, a nonprofit that supports children with cancer.
We did it for the Izzy Fund. They would sometimes say, I don't want any lemonade, I just wanted to donate to you guys.
The stand has seen more than 125 customers since word spread of their efforts. So far, the girls have raised nearly $1,300 for that foundation. In South Carolina, health officials are warning about the dangers of mosquito-borne diseases. The CDC reports that the West Nile virus is present in 33 states, with South Carolina being one of them. Cities across the state are testing mosquitoes caught by traps so they can get out in front of any human outbreak.
So that we can determine if we have West Nile or any of the other vector diseases before we get a human case. That way we can ramp up spraying or treating of wet areas.
Tropical Storm Debbie has ramped up mosquito activity, but officials are diligently working to quell the growing population. Coming up, retirement savings on the rise. How many Americans reached 401k millionaire status in the second quarter? The number of 401k millionaires hit a new record high in the second quarter as of June. According to Fidelity Investments, nearly 500,000 401k accounts had balances of $1 million or more. The average 401k balance across all participants is about $127,000, and that's up 13% from this same time last year. New information: Stop and Shop locations are stopping the sale of cigarettes and tobacco products starting this weekend. Walmart, CVS, and Target have done the same. The grocers say dropping tobacco is part of its commitment to community wellness. Ahead in our next half hour, families feeling the pinch this back-to-school shopping season on everything from backpacks to notebooks. Plus, Plus, 2 astronauts stuck in space for another 6 months, how SpaceX could take the lead in the cosmos. You're watching the National Desk, America's News Now. You can watch us live weekdays from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. and 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time, and anytime online at thenationaldesk.com. We'll be right back.
The National Desk, America's News Now.
From the nation's capital, this is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Amira David. In this weekend edition, we start with new details leading up to this year's election. A new pair of studies showing former President Donald Trump's economic proposals would be nearly 5 times higher than that of Kamala Harris. The University of Pennsylvania's Penn Wharton budget model shows Trump's $5.8 trillion deficit over the next 10 years could come from extending 2017 tax cuts and cutting taxes on Social Security benefits. Harris's proposals at $1.2 trillion for the same time period include expanding certain tax credits and creating a subsidy for first-time home buyers. When it comes to family costs, both have supported an expanded child tax credit. Harris has suggested raising it to $3,600 and up to $6,000 for a child's first year. Trump has not given a clear stance on that, but during his time as president, he doubled the child tax credit and established paid leave for federal employees. Now for family care, Harris has said she plans to invest billions in affordable care for elderly and disabled adults, including children. Trump has said his party would support unpaid family caregivers through tax credits and cut some red tape. American families seeing sticker shock as they shop this back-to-school season. Import taxes have inflated costs by as much as 20% on everything from backpacks to clothing. Earlier this week, I spoke with Brandon Arnold from the National Taxpayers Union about a new study shedding light on the impact to our wallets. I just want you to share more about this study because it's quite informative. We are talking about a significant increase in the most basic of items here.
Yeah, absolutely. And Americans have been clobbered by inflation, as we all know, for the past several years. The last thing they need is things to get more expensive. So what we've seen is working families who are sending their kids back to school. And I put my kids on the bus for the first time just a couple days ago, earlier this week. But these families have already been struggling with higher housing costs, food costs, energy costs, and now here we are with back-to-school costs, which are going to hit nearly $40 billion this year. That's more than $870 per household. They're going to see those costs go up even further because we've allowed programs to expire that have helped to hold the price of some of these back-to-school supplies, whether that's clothing, pencils, backpacks, that have helped hold those prices relatively low. Those prices are skyrocketing, and unfortunately, that's taking a really heavy toll on American families right now.
Sure, and we have a chart to show folks, you know, backpacks up as much as 20%, notebooks 8%, colored pencils up, socks, shoes, T-shirts, jeans, you name it. You know, I'm seeing a range of anywhere from 6% to 20%. I mean, that's quite a bit. So give us some more context on this. You know, why is this happening? When it went into effect some years ago, was it understood this would happen, or was this an unintended consequence? What's happening here?
This is a product of dysfunction in Washington. You know, we talk a lot about China when we talk about trade. This is less about China. It's more about programs that we have in place or have traditionally had in place with developing nations. We've helped work with developing nations, lift them out of poverty while helping our consumers at the same time. It's a win-win system. It is not undermining our national security. It's not hurting workers. Quite the contrary. It's helping our country. But because Washington has become so dysfunctional and so partisan, we've allowed this program to expire. That's really hurt our small businesses. And most notably, it's hurt our families, especially at times like now when we're spending far more than we ought to send our kids back to school.
Well, Brandon, a lot of people would say say, okay, I'll just avoid the made in China products and I'll buy only products made in the U.S. To what extent does that help you?
Well, that can help our workers. That can help, you know, a lot of our businesses here in the United States. But it's a lot more complicated than that, because a lot of times products that are made here in America are made using raw materials or intermediate goods that are imported from other countries. And when we're importing things from friendly countries, we're also opening the door for our ranchers, for our farmers to export products. We have more than 10 million jobs in this country that are supported by exports. So when they start throwing up retaliatory tariffs, when they start punishing our farmers, our ranchers, guess what? That really hurts the heartland here. It really hurts American workers and people that are scraping by in a really difficult economy.
And just about 30 seconds left here, but you look at the two major candidates, Harris and Trump. We know that their approaches differ on the issue. What policy would you personally need or want to see to feel confident that we can bring those prices down?
Yeah, I mean, we need to create strong trade deals with our allies, and we need to start to counter the influence of China that is making huge investments in countries like in the entire continent of Africa, I should say, in Pacific Rim countries like South Korea, Australia. We need to strengthen our ties there, because if we don't strengthen our ties, China will jump in, and that creates not only economic problems for our country, but also geopolitical problems and potentially national security problems for the United States.
Brandon Arnold with the National Taxpayers Union, thank you so much for shedding light on that really important study. Very informative. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right now, the new elementary school being built in Uvalde, Texas, just got a big fundraising boost. The Uvalde School District confirmed a $10 million donation towards its construction. Kate Marmion Charitable Foundation also offering a $5 million matching grant. That means every donation to the Hope Blooms in Uvalde campaign will be matched by the dollar. The foundation says the community deserves a fresh start following the 2022 mass shooting at Robb Elementary School that killed 19 students and 2 teachers. The new school is on track to be completed by the fall of '25. And new information, Baltimore is taking another step towards rebuilding the collapsed Francis Scott Key Bridge. The Maryland Transportation Authority is awarding a contract to Nebraska-based construction giant KeyWIT Infrastructure for the project's first phase. This means design work will start next week, 5 months after a container ship rammed into the bridge and completely toppled it. The rebuild is expected to cost at least $1.7 billion. 2 crew members and the captain of a luxury super yacht that sunk in Italy, killing 7, have been placed under investigation, according to Reuters and a news agency in Italy. The captain exercised his right to remain silent. Italian media reports say investigators are looking into whether the ship engineer did not activate certain security systems. Being investigated does not necessarily equate to formal charges under Italian law.
Boeing is back in the headlines for all the wrong reasons again after their Starliner spacecraft has left 2 astronauts stranded in space for another 6 months. Emma from the Fact Check team joining us now. Lots of people holding their breath about this. In light of all of this, NASA has invested a lot of money into Boeing's space program.
Absolutely, they have. So NASA has invested around $5.1 billion to Boeing for the Starliner program, and they've already shelled out most of that funding here. They gave SpaceX, on the other hand, about half of that, $2.6 billion. Boeing's Starliner program, though, has had years of delays. They've gone over budget, and now they have these issues with the Starliner spacecraft. But NASA hasn't announced any plans to pull funding. So
overall, SpaceX seems to have been strong in the market, right?
Oh, yeah, they're dominating the market right now. They've had more than 80 missions launched of their Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy rockets this year, compared to the 4 launches from their rival, United Launch Alliance, and then 10 launches from their other rival, Rocket Labs USA.
There's also been reports that Starliner spacecrafts are incompatible with the SpaceX capsule. So obviously these astronauts are supposed to ride back in February. If that turns out to be the case, what's plan B?
Yeah, it definitely seems a bit concerning. testing. It still remains unclear, but it could potentially be a pretty big problem here. NASA confirmed that it's considering flying the astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams back without a suit, but a safer solution also on the table is to just fly 2 spacesuits up with the SpaceX crew when they leave in September. So we'll see what happens.
Let's hope that we get some good news soon.
Yeah.
Emma, thank you. And for more on this Fact Check Team topic, including links to their sources, scan the QR code on your screen or visit thenationaldesk.com.
A former Las Vegas area politician has been sentenced to life in prison for the murder of an investigative journalist. Robert Tellis, seen sitting with his head down while the jury read their verdict earlier this week. The 47-year-old former public administrator from Clark County found guilty for the murder of Jeff Gehrman, who was stabbed to death in 2022 after writing articles about workplace misconduct claims in Tellis's office.
Today's verdict should send a message. And that message is a clear message that any attempts to silence the media or to silence or intimidate a journalist will not be tolerated.
Tellis still denies any involvement in Gehrman's death and claims he was framed. He is eligible for parole in 20 years. Russia has banned 92 additional Americans from entering the country as the war with Ukraine continues. The list includes 11 current or former employees of the Wall Street Journal. It comes after Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich spent 16 months in a Russian prison. He was released earlier this month. The list also banned journalists from the New York Times and the Washington Post. And thanks to new strategies, the Navy will meet its recruiting goal for the first time in 3 years. This week, the military branch announced it will meet its goal to sign up 40,600 recruits by the end of September. The service also announced it will fall about 5,000 sailors short of its target to get recruits through basic training in the same time frame. The Navy missed its goal in each of the last 2 years, making it difficult to fully staff its warships. They are estimated to be about 22,000 sailors short. And still to come, our team of correspondents breaks down this week in Washington, from RFK still on the ballot in some swing states to Mark Zuckerberg's letter on censorship by Facebook. We've got it all.
Welcome back. Our Washington Bureau covers the nation's capital every day, and our team of correspondents reports on the important issues facing the country and how they impact you. With Labor Day around the corner, the general election kicks into full gear, and the presidential candidates are trading barbs on the 2 top issues, the economy and the border. National correspondent Christine Frizzell, one specific policy proposal, expanding the border wall, making some news this past week.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line here, Steve, is aside from the economy, the border is really seen as the biggest vulnerability for Kamala Harris. She put out a new ad really confronting this, and the ad shows several shots of the border wall. Now, this is a wall she once called Trump's medieval vanity project. This is when she was running 4 years ago. It seems like she's changed her tune on the wall. She said she would sign the bipartisan border legislation, which includes $650 million in funding for the wall. You know, I was at the border in Cochise County, Arizona a few months ago, and you can see actual parts of wall just stacked up there from where the construction of the wall just literally ended the day President Biden took office. So there's going to be a lot more questions about what a President Harris would actually do when it comes to expanding the wall. This is something a lot of people on the right say is the first thing that needs to happen. People on the left are not so sure about this, and it is going to stay in the conversation, especially as we just saw this past week with migrant crime stories, this video released of migrants tied to a Venezuelan street gang taking over an apartment complex. Stories like this are going to keep this issue front and center from now until November.
Right, and we'll be hearing a lot more about this in about a week and a half on September 10th, the first presidential debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Meanwhile, independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. suspended his bid and endorsed Donald Trump. National correspondent Audra Elnishar. Kennedy has been trying to remove his name from ballots in battleground states, but he's running into some issues.
Yeah, some legal issues, Steve. As if this election didn't need another plot twist, leave it to RFK Jr. to give us one. So he is suspending his campaign. He's not terminating it, but he's trying to take his name off the ballot in 10 states, 7 of which are battleground states. Think Pennsylvania, Arizona, etc. And his idea in doing this is that he doesn't want to take votes away from former President Trump, which he says his internal polling shows he would do in some of these critical states. So he's still running for president because he still believes he can win if Kamala Harris and Donald Trump tie with 269 electoral votes each, and then the 12th Amendment would require the House of Representatives to pick the president and the Senate to pick the vice president. That happened in 1800. We don't really see that happening now. I don't think anyone's forecasting it, but RFK Jr. believes that's a possibility. So he's trying to take his name off the ballot in these critical states, but he's running into some state laws. In Wisconsin and Michigan in particular, also North Carolina, he's running into trouble. And he's polling in the low single digits, so it might not seem that significant, but remember, the last election was determined by just tens of thousands of votes in a few critical states. So it's possible he could be a spoiler. For who? We'd have to see.
And we've seen that in recent elections as well. It'll be interesting to watch that if his name does stay on those ballots. Meanwhile, Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg addressed the pressure Facebook received from the Biden administration regarding content moderation. National correspondent Matt Galka, what did Zuckerberg say and what was the political fallout?
Yeah, Mark Zuckerberg sent a letter to the House Judiciary Committee this week. And if you remember, throughout the course of this year, that committee has really been on him for basically saying that he was one of the main people who was censoring American voices through Facebook. But in his letter, he basically admitted that back in 2021, that he received a good amount of pressure from the Biden administration to moderate content, take down posts, misinformation posts that the Biden administration was calling misinformation posts about COVID-19, the vaccine. That also included humor and satire. And in that letter, Zuckerberg said that he thought that pressure was wrong. And if, with hindsight, looking back, he would make different decisions, or Facebook and Meta would make different decisions today than they did back then. Also, in that letter, he talked about leading up to the 2020 election when the FBI warned Facebook about Russian disinformation, and that warning that caused them to temporarily demote a story about Hunter Biden's laptop while they were waiting on fact checkers. Zuckerberg said that they would no longer demote stories while they're waiting on those facts to clear. So he made it clear that he would change things, or things have changed over at Meta when it comes to free speech. Again, he called that pressure wrong. Now, here's the thing. He also said it was ultimately up to Meta for what they did and did not take down. And Zuckerberg's critics have also openly questioned, why is this letter coming out now? Because a lot of this information he had already said. He had said it on a Joe Rogan podcast. He had said it to the committee that there was pressure. So they're kind of questioning the timing, and maybe it's because he just wants to get on the good side of some Republicans. And as we head into an election season, he doesn't want to be labeled as the enemy. But at the end of that letter was a big thing that could have an impact on the election. He said he will not make any donations this time around. In 2020, his philanthropy made some donations, and it was heavily criticized by Republicans as putting his thumb on the scale. He said he wants to remain neutral. So if you're a House Republican, you see this letter, and they're all calling it a big win for free speech.
Yeah, and Zuckerberg has said he wants to make Facebook less reliant on news and politics, and you wonder if this is part of that strategy as well. Matt, Audra, Christine, always great reporting. Thanks for your hard work. Back to you.
Up next, a convenience store clerk shoots an alleged robber. Cincinnati residents weighing in on that deadly decision. Plus, a Florida man put behind bars more than 40 times. How his latest arrest has lawmakers pushing for stricter drug laws. This is the National Desk America's News Now. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering the issues that matter most to you. From an Oregon city slashing a crime unit despite concerns from businesses to criminals arrested on drug charges in Florida. We are taking the pulse of America, but we begin in Ohio, where police say a gas station employee shot and killed an alleged robber.
Surveillance video from the Gold Star restaurant across the street shows police showing up within 2 minutes. Inside, 57-year-old Dana Bruton lay dying from a gunshot wound. This police radio traffic from Broadcastify.
Channel, clerk saying he just shot someone.
Clerks at the BP station say Bruton came in demanding money. They say their coworker opened the register, but when Bruton demanded the clerk get on the ground, he refused, and a struggle ensued. They say the owner keeps a gun behind the counter. The clerk grabbed it and shot Bruton.
Sometimes you got to pick and choose your battles. Sometimes you got to pick and choose your battles.
And this time he chose the battle.
He chose the battle.
You think it was the right decision?
I do. You know, I hate for someone to lose their life like that, but it is what it is.
More than half of the store has been stolen. Kay Herjoy has worked at Deluxe Bridal in downtown Portland for the last 7 years. In that time, she says the store has been broken into and thousands of dollars of merchandise stolen 5 times.
An investigation has begun 2 separate times with this place, this location. But I just feel that I don't know that it helped. You know, there's still homeless out there. There's still breakages happening. I'm not sure if any of that really made a change.
Herjoy is among other businesses who now fear less action by police now that it's slashing its property crimes unit. She said the news is just the latest blow to business owners who feel like the city doesn't care about them.
I would say it makes me feel that Portland deserves better. The city deserves better.
I frequently will look at a criminal history and say to myself, how in the hell is this person out on the streets?
Heavily armed sheriff's deputies responded to this house on Northwest 6th Street in Okeechobee and arrested 3 people on drug charges: Brittany Alfonso, Corey Jenkins, and Brandy York.
I think it's really good that it's gone, because nobody needs that. Who needs fentanyl? Fentanyl's killing everybody.
According to the Okeechobee County Sheriff's Office, all 3 people had numerous prior arrests. Alfonso has 12 prior arrests, Jenkins has 42 prior arrests, and York had 19 prior arrests. Yet they were still out on the street.
I think it's ridiculous. They need more time. They're just gonna keep coming out and keep doing what they're doing.
This repeat behavior, I think we've become too tolerant of this issue, and I think the laws can in fact be adjusted to address it more strongly.
Still ahead, shutting their doors this weekend. How many Red Lobsters are closing down right now after the company filed for bankruptcy? NFL owners approved a change in the league's ownership structure just this week. The move will now allow private equity firms to purchase up to a 10% stake in the franchise. The NFL says only a select number of equity firms will be allowed to invest in up to 6 different teams. The change could free up cash for owners to pursue projects such as stadium renovations. It represents a major shift in how the league has historically operated. Roughly 24 additional Red Lobster restaurants are set to close in the coming days as part of the company's ongoing bankruptcy. According to court filings, the company has rejected the leases of 23 other locations that are set to end by this weekend. The chain is expected to have an estimated of 500 restaurants left. Earlier this summer, more than 100 locations shuttered their doors, and just last year, there were at least 650 restaurants. Looking ahead, Apple announced the date of its next major event, where the iPhone 16 is expected to launch with new artificial intelligence features. The tech giant is hosting a special event on September 9th with the tagline, "It's Glow Time," but did not release further details. The device is expected to be the first to be designed fully with AI in mind. And before we go, wildlife experts in Missouri recently captured what they thought was an injured bald eagle that couldn't fly. Turns out that bald eagle had just eaten a little too much. After x-raying the animal, they found what they suspect is a raccoon inside the bird's stomach, weighing it down completely, a victim of its own success. The eagle has now been released near Wilson's National Battlefield, where it was originally found. And that's all for us on this weekend edition of the National Desk America's News Now. Don't forget, you can watch us anytime between 6 a.m. and 11 a.m. and 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time. Just check your local listings. You can also watch us online and catch up with the latest headlines on thenationaldesk.com. Thank you so much for watching this weekend edition of the National Desk. I'm Amira David, and from all of us here, have yourself a great week.